Before we get started into our next assignment, in which we will be using a tool called Follow Me quite a bit, I would like to take some time to demonstrate how Follow Me works without getting into real-world applications just yet. There's a lot of really great ways that you can use this tool. It's incredibly useful, especially if you're working on advanced models. In fact, it's pretty necessary. We have so far worked very, very well and primarily with push-pull. So we have made a shape, we've made it into a group, and then we've push-pulled it. What you'll notice about push-pull is that push-pull works almost entirely. No, I'm sorry, it completely works only parallel to itself. All you're ever doing is taking one face and pulling it up or pushing it down parallel to where it started, which is really, really great when you want to make solid, very basic objects. But what happens if you want to start making stuff that's a little bit more complicated? What happens if I want this to actually go up, then curve around, then twist back around? Up until now, we really haven't had a way to do that. We touched on this gesture in our first homework assignment, so this would be a good place to really brush up on taking it a lot further. What you need is, with push-pull, you always need a face or a shape, and then you need a path for it to follow. So this is going to be our face to start out. Actually, let's start out with something a little bit more interesting. Let's start out with a triangle. So I'm just going to make a three-sided polygon and pull that out from there. And the nice thing about the latest version, SketchUp 2016, is that now they give you the center point as you're referencing it, which is pretty great. So if I wanted to take a new line, it's going to let me pop to that center. So you'll notice that this is the rare moment where I don't make something into a group right after I've made it. I still can make it into a group if I want, but I know that I'm about to explode it. So I'm going to just make this triangle, not group it. Then I'm going to start making a path. Now here's the tricky part. I have to always focus on making sure that the path is somewhere aligned with this group. And that'll make more, with this face. That'll make a little more sense after I get going here. So I'm moving up along my blue axis, and then I'm moving along the red axis, and then straight back down along the blue. Because I want this triangle shape to follow this path. So the first thing I'll do to get that going is select the entire path. Notice the path isn't grouped, neither is the triangle shape below. So I've selected the entire path. The next thing I need to tell SketchUp is that I want to start engaging Follow Me. So you select the path, then you go to Follow Me. I have a shortcut set up for this, which is F, but it looks like this it's just below push-pull on your toolbar. It looks like this kind of crazy looking shape with an arrow following it. So select Follow Me. Now the path de-highlights. So it looks like nothing's happening. What Follow Me is waiting for is it's waiting for you to tell it what you want to follow that path. So if I want this triangle to follow the path, all I need to do is click once on the face of it, and it's going to quickly follow that. And you'll notice it's maintained this triangular shape as it's gone up and around. Let's undo that. I'm just going to Apple Z. I'm going to make this shape a little crazier, just to kind of demonstrate using my freehand drawing tool. So if I just make this kind of wacky, wild shape, and then delete what I don't want. So I'm just selecting all the lines I don't need anymore. I can still select this same path, engage Follow Me, and click once on that shape, and now you'll notice that totally wild, crazy path follows it. Let's make the path a little crazier. So I'm going to go ahead and actually redo what I just did. This time, and this is where navigating through 3D becomes really, really important. So I'm going to select these two lines I don't want and delete them. This time I'm going to have the path go along the green axis, then come along the red, then back down along the blue, and then along the green. So my path has now become three-dimensional, and I'm going to make it even more intense by making a part of it, whoops, that's not the right arch. I'm going to make a part of it arched. So I'm clicking on this point to that point, and you'll notice that this arch tool actually if you're dealing with an ungrouped raw set of lines, it will actually smooth that out for you. Okay, so I've made this. This is kind of like that old that little children's toy where you kind of take the blocks up and along it. My path is just this semi-complex series of lines and arches that are following itself in a line. Now I will select the entire path by double-clicking on it, so I can see that the whole path is blue. Then I will engage Follow Me and click once, and you'll see that it follows along this path, follows that arch, and then follows it down. Okay, so let me undo that. Let's see what happens if I move this path somewhere out in space and kind of disconnected from that path. So now I'm going to ask SketchUp for this path, for this shape to follow this path, but you'll notice that there's really nowhere that it's connected. So I've selected this, and I'm going to now go to Follow Me and then click on this path. I get some really, really weird results. So it's following, it's trying to kind of triangulate and find the difference, and it's following a path that's not the path I've created. So you can see how important it is to make sure that your path and your shape that you're going to have it follow are connected in some way. This is the kind of easiest way to begin. It's always easiest to start with a path right in the center, or to have the path right above it. Okay, so that's example one. Let's take a look at some other ways Follow Me works. We've also, in this condition, we're going to subtract a Follow Me shape. So what I have is I have a group, I have a 3D shape that's basically got a little arched piece and an arced cutaway, and then a couple different turns. And then here's my shape. So let me open this up. So in this case, we don't have a path, because we don't have a traditional path that's separate. We actually have this face engaged with the entire 3D shape. But that doesn't mean we can't still use Follow Me. So because I've got this right on the face, I actually can use the top of this shape as a path. And what I'm doing is I'm selecting individually, slightly more tedious, but still a huge time saver in the end. I'm selecting all of the top face, and I'm saying that this is the path that I want this shape to follow. So now that I've got my path selected, I go right to Follow Me, and I click right on that face. Click once, and look what it did. It carved that whole shape right away from that top piece. Awesome. So this would be something that would be really useful if I'm making a table or some sort of a pedestal. Okay, so that's example one. Here's example two. We've got the same situation, only this time this profile is sticking outside of that shape. So again, I'm going to select each line along the top of this face. Okay, I've selected all the lines. Now, next step, I want my shape to follow that path. Looks like I've got a little line here that needs to be deleted. So I'm gonna come in really fast and delete this line, because I don't know what the results might be if I left that kind of stray line. So again, once again, just gonna quickly select these lines. So I'm holding Shift down as I click with my select tool. Now I want Follow Me, and I want it to be this shape that follows it. Click. So again, this time we've created a positive shape. Really, really useful for something like crown molding, a mantle. Okay, but what's important to notice is that this is all engaged in one shape. We're going to, when we get into our model, we're going to be a little cleaner than this. We're going to make sure that our molding is a separate group. But I just kind of want you to show that even if you're working with a solid, you can do this. So that's example two. That's adding a profile with Follow Me. Now here we go. We have a profile drawn onto a flat plane. And what I want now is I want to use Follow Me where this actually follows itself around in a circle, creating a turning. So I will select the pieces I don't want and delete them. So now what I have is this profile shape, and I'm going to create my path. I'm creating this path inside the group because It's basically the same as exploding it and then just creating it out in space. If I'm inside the group, this is essentially exploded within the group. Okay? Now I'm going to select my circle tool. I'm going to up the sides to 30, which is going to make this a little bit of a heavier model because it's going to give it more facets, but I want it to look nice and clean. And then I'm going to start at that center point and making sure that I'm on the blue axis. Click once and just drag this out in space. I want my circle to be a little bit bigger. And because it's a circle, it really doesn't matter. I could go huge. It's a circle, so it's ultimately the same path no matter what I do. I'm going to delete that inside face because I don't need it. So here's my path. So I'm telling the program that I want this face to follow this path, and it has to be nice and centered on it, or else it's going to look a little bit wonky. So I've got the path selected. I engage follow me, and I click once on that face. And what happens? It makes a perfect, it follows that path, and it makes a perfect symmetrical on all sides shape using that profile. I now don't need that path anymore, so I can delete it. Here's a final example using the circle again. Open this up, and I'm going to find the center of my circle. So I'm going to use that line tool to pop to the center point. Okay, now I'm going to use another circle, holding shift down. I engage with that center point and I pull it out to any point that's bigger than the circle. And then I delete the face I don't need, I delete the line I don't need, and I'm telling SketchUp that I want this flat circle that's along the blue axis to follow this circle that's along the red and the green axis. So I engage follow me, and I click once on that circle, and I get a perfect, well, not perfect, but I get a ball. And if I triple click on this, I can see that it's actually a series of facets that are all connecting themselves. You can see that with this tool, the options for making more complicated shapes are pretty endless, especially when it comes to interior detailing and getting some of those trickier shapes that we associate with more traditional designs.